Hello, welcome to Thankful Thursday on Sunday. I just started Instagram. Let me stream to my Facebook group. I don't know if anyone will be here because this isn't normally the day I stream, but I did promise you guys, and I had a special request to go over thread tension. What I'm trying to do is getting it to come up. Let me share it to my group so we can get going. Okay, let me come back to the streaming software. Okay, thank you guys. Hi, Linda. Nice to see you. I know this isn't normally a day I stream in. I just got back last night from lots of trips. Like Alaska, I was home one day, and then I went to Inspired to Sew in Iowa, and I just got back last night. And I'm only here for a week, and then it's Quilt Festival and Quilt Market and Mel's in Anaheim, California. So I'm feeling a little bit frenetic. But I did have a lot of requests to go over thread tension, so I'm going to do that today. You guys, I've had a day. First of all, Bernita sent me a part, and FedEx delivered it because I can see the proof of delivery, but they didn't knock, and the package was stolen off my porch. That's number one. Then I had bought the rights to all this music for my Facebook my video tutorials, and there's some third, even though I bought it legitimately, there's some third party like scam where they go and they try to accuse you of copyright infringement and take revenue, and it goes after like all the videos, so I have to deal with all those reports and like go back and send screenshots of purchases, etc. And then, what else happened? Oh, yeah. Let's see. I'm looking at my notes. So the package stolen. I have the videos. Okay, I have a problem I have to ask for your help with over on Amazon, of all places. But I thought I'd take time to answer your questions about thread tension. Those of you who are asking about my new patterns, this is the first day, other than one other day this month, I've been home. I am going to be working this week on getting patterns up on the website and shipped to distributors. And that reminds me, I need to write the distributors tomorrow and say, get your orders in because I will be gone for 2 weeks. That's my to-do list over there. So they will be coming up this week. Once they are up, I will post it to Facebook. I've had a lot of questions, especially for the bags. These are ruler work bags, and what you're seeing here, because I don't have my current line, the blue one is not down here. So I have the next upcoming line. So this is a sneak peek of the next line. And these are those ruler work panel bags where you use the panel guide to quilt the panel, but you use the pattern to put the bag together. They will be coming out this week. They are not on the website now. But as I said, if I can ever get over all my other problems in life right now with music content, like verifying ownership of that, and stolen packages with a bobbin case that no one needs but me, then I will get over and get those things up. So it will be this week sometime. I just can't be specific when. So let's see. I had a few questions. I think Adam with Adam So Fun was showing this. It had showed he worked on this pattern, so I've been getting questions about it. This is my multi-tool ruler, and you guys know my whole cloth blocks are at dealers right now, but I have these whole cloth block patterns, and this is number 5. So the first one goes with every angle, second one goes with every curve, third one goes with every circle, and then every oval, and then I did one with the multi-tool. And the way this works, you buy the guide and you buy the ruler, and you make a whole cloth block. Now, if you're a beginner, yes, you can do this, but I would recommend using matching thread instead of contrasting thread if you're really nervous about making mistakes. The contrasting thread is just you see your mistakes more. So you can do these as they're 18 inches square, so you can do them as pillows. You can do them as a whole cloth quilt, and on my blog I have directions for how to put it together as a whole cloth quilt should you want to make a lot of squares and do that. But that's what this is, okay? So that's one thing. The other thing I keep getting asked is apples and oranges, what pattern does it make? It makes these traditional orange peels. I always get mixed up. This is orange peel and apple cores. So that's my new apples and oranges ruler, right? It's apple cores. Oh, look, a thread from my binding and orange peels. So that's what it makes. And I had a live stream, which I kept up, where I showed you how to use it. Yes, eventually I'll do a recorded video if I'm ever home again, which I will be after mid-October. Then I'm back to more of a normal schedule. So that's what that was. Now, I have been busy. I don't know if you can see the stack of fabric up there. I guess you can. I'm busy getting my stuff ready to ship to market and festival. So it's a little bit chaotic here. But I can talk about thread tension. Anyway, let me just see if there's anything else. Oh gosh, of course, as with all my broadcasts, if you're motivated to buy a Bernina because of things you've heard me say, because of influence, you can certainly write me and I can give you a rebate card. It takes about 2 months to process, but you have to write me before you buy. And the card's good for 30 days. So you have to be intending to buy a new Bernina within 30 days. And you have to write me before you put any money down. And I don't get any money for that, but it tells Bernina basically I'm having some influence. So I always get, Bernina gives me a lot of marketing. So I appreciate your guys' support on that. Okay, what else do I have to say? Probably this Thursday, I'm going to show you guys all the quilts for Moonlight Serenade. Moonlight Serenade is starting to ship to shops in October, so really soon now. If there was a shop, like the Alaska shops, they had it already because I was going to be there, but it's officially shipping in October. The one you saw, this one, Twilight Serenade, it's shipping in February, okay? And I don't even have all the quilts made for that yet, but it's shipping in February. The two lines go together. So the blues in the Moonlight, I don't see that all those quilts are somewhere, but not with me. They all kind of coordinate. Let's see. Now, where will I be before we get going with the tension talk? Where will I be the next few months? Okay, so I'm going to Mel's this weekend. I'll be there with the events Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week. That's in Anaheim, California. I'm going to Market, which is an industry show. So if you're a quilt shop, come see me in the Benartex booth. And I think I'm having a book signing for my newest book. But I don't know the details, so I'll post that on my Facebook page once I do. Then we have Quilt Festival, which is the consumer show. I wanted to tell you guys that I have one more spot in this class. So this is a Trapunto table topper. We still have one spot because a couple people backed out. They had other commitments then, so they weren't going to the show. This class, this is the Trapunto table topper. I have one spot in. So make sure to register. Okay. Now, I hope I brought, oh yes. Okay. I need you guys to do me a favor. I seldom ask for a favor, but I'm asking for a big one here. You know how I'm into Amazon, not? Well, Amazon rules your life in the book world. And so we have this book, and I don't know if you guys remember. Let me just show you this. I'm going to change to a different camera. Okay. So it goes over all these free motion patterns, and they're all open type of patterns. So like if I went to Open Hearts on page, and it's called the Free Motion Quilting Workbook. So I went to page, that's one of my favorite, these full moon things, right? So it gives you a page where you see the pattern, and then it gives you a page where you can trace the pattern. Okay, so it's in very light gray. And then it gives you a page where it started for you and you continue. And then it gives you a blank page. And that's the same for all the patterns. In fact, I'm teaching a class on this book at Festival. But that class is full. You can get on the wait list, but that class is full. So, moral, this book, right? I'm going to post a link to the Amazon review for this book. So the Amazon page for this book, most everyone gave me a 5-star, except one person gave me a 2-star. Who does that to an individual author? I'm not a big business. But because there's only one 2-star, it shows that at the top. And the only way to get that down is to have other people post lots of reviews. Because there's only one 2-star, it shows at the top. So if you like my work, please go over and give this book a good review. So the first thing that comes up is not a bad review. Honestly, sometimes, people are weird. Okay. So we're going to talk thread tension now. Gosh, you guys made it even from the UK. It must be late in the UK. I guess it's not too late. It's 5 hours. It's my time of night. So I had questions about thread tension. So thread tension is basically the balance between the top thread and the bottom thread. And we're going to talk about this. It works sort of the same, whether you're on a Q series, you're on a domestic machine. But when Bernina or any sewing machine company sets thread tension, they have to choose. Are they going to set it for thicker sandwiches or thicker fabric or thinner fabric? What's going to be the factory default? And so for Bernina, the factory default on a regular domestic machine, and I know I'm in front of a Q series, that's what I have in the place I do these lives, but it's the same regardless. The regular default is when you're sewing, so a piecing stitch through 2 layers of quilting cotton. Okay. And I bring this up because people always ask, well, what tension setting do you have for this quilt? Well, your tension setting is going to depend on your quilt sandwich and the things that make up your quilt sandwich. Ideally, I want the top and the bobbin threads to pass through each other in the middle of the sandwich, right? And so if you have a thicker quilt sandwich, like say I'm using Annie Soft and Stable, like I did for these bags. If I have a thicker quilt sandwich, it stands to reason that knot where the top and bobbin threads pass through each other needs to come up a little more to be in the center of the quilt sandwich. And people get all strung out about thread tension, but really it's just a balance of threads. And particularly on the Q series, if you call up your neighbor and ask them their threads tension settings for a particular thread on their Q series, theirs might be a little different than yours. And that's because their bobbin may be set a little differently. Now, they give you one of these gauges when you buy a Q series, and that does give you sort of an analog bobbin reading, but it's a range, okay? So it might be a little off what your friend's doing. So I wouldn't ask them theirs. I'd figure out yours because yours might be a little off, okay? So it's very much dependent on the thickness you're sewing through. If it's a thinner thing, it might be a little different. And so don't get too hung up on numbers because it's just a balance. Now, on a regular sewing machine, you can't see the tension disc. Like a domestic one with feed dogs, you can't see the tension disc. But on the Q series, you can, so I thought I'd show it to you. Where is... Oh, here we go. Okay, because you can see the tension discs on a Q series really well. I'm going to turn on my desk lamp for a minute and see if that shines. Oh, I didn't plug it in. Well, I guess I won't turn on my desk lamp. We'll still try to get in here. Oh, yeah, we can see those tension discs. Okay, so I'm just going to wiggle these tension discs so you see where they are. This is not like a pop quiz, okay? I just want you to see where they are. So if I wiggle this thread back and forth, there's that little metal disc in there. Those are the tension discs. And right now the tension discs are open because I have my presser foot up, okay? Do you see them moving? Those are your tension discs. It's just like that inside a domestic machine, except you guys can't see it. So when I bring my foot down, it closes those tension discs. And it closes it so they're a certain distance apart. Now, Berninas are very precise, but still, these machines are sisters, not identical twins, okay? And my Q24 upstairs versus my Q16 down here, I've sewn on these for years. They like their bobbins set one little quarter step different. And I think it's because one of them, the tension just is slightly closer, just as a default, than the other. So I know if I was setting this for neutral tension, which is 4.0, and I went up to my Q series upstairs, I'd probably set it at 4.25. And it's just the machines are sisters. It's just my thread tension here is a little tighter by default. So that's what I'm saying. So I just know the particularities of my machine, but I want you to think of it visually. So on any Bernina, okay, I'll get back to glide in a minute, Jacqueline, and if I'm mispronouncing your name, I apologize. I'll get back to that in a minute. So let's first talk thread tension, then I'll get back to thread. So if, I don't want to lose my connection. Okay, here. So numeric thread tension is the same on a domestic. I'm going to bring up my numeric thread tension here. On a Q series, it's really unique. Most long arms don't have numeric thread tension, but Bernina borrowed this from their domestic machines. So I can show it to you. So you see that circle? That's where the threads, the top thread and the bobbin thread pass through each other. So if my bobbin thread was coming up to the top, I would need to lower that circle, okay? If my bobbin thread was coming up to the top, I'd want the knot to be further down in the quilt sandwich. So honestly, I don't pay much attention to the numbers. I look at the picture and that tells me. If my top thread was coming all the way to the bobbin, now if there's eyelashes, like it's really coming to the bobbin, you probably missed the tension disc entirely on the top. But if you had just a little bit of the top thread being pulled to the bobbin, I'd need to move up where that knot was happening, where the threads were passing through each other, and I'd need to raise this. Now you'll notice on a Bernina, my desk, my Pivo doesn't show color very well, but this is outlined in yellow right now. And it's outlined in yellow because it's off the factory default. On the Q series and on some of the top of the line domestics, I believe on the 9, it shows you a picture. I could be wrong. So if I'm wrong, I apologize. But do you see how it actually changed the picture up here? It changed the picture to show you what you were doing. Now, oftentimes, I'm not adjusting all the way up to 10 usually. I might just adjust a little up or a little down. But remember, the type of batting I'm using is going to affect my thread tension. And I don't call up my friend who has a Q series and ask them the number usually, just because when you get, when they sell you to set your tension at 220. So on a Q series, it's actually a physical bobbin and it's a screw. And you can tighten lefty loosey, righty tighty. You can tighten and loosen the screw to adjust the bobbin tension, but you're still getting a range, okay? It's not going to give you a digital number. It's not that precise because some people could pull harder than others, etc. It's just a range. So you got to do a little stitching on the actual quilt sandwich that you're going to work on so that you have the same batting to test that thread tension. Okay, most of the time my thread tension is pretty near perfect without much adjustment because I use the perfect quilting thread all the time. But if you're playing with a bunch of different threads, your thread tension might change accordingly. On the Q series, you can actually save different thread tension settings in this menu. Mine says P2, yours might say P1. It's just that I have saved an extra thread tension setting. If I was stippling with metallic, I would save something as stipple metallic, and it would save with Deco Bob in the bobbin, it would save the thread tension I set and the stitch length if I was on a Q. Now, on a domestic machine like the 7s the newer fives, the one that have the newer bobbin, you don't adjust that bobbin case. If you want to play with that bobbin case, Bernina says buy an extra bobbin, right? You're not supposed to play with it like the original 580 I had. It was a screw more like the Q series. You're not supposed to play with the newer ones. You should buy a new bobbin case if you want to play with that bobbin thread. What is that pretty blue-green fabric behind me? Oh, this stuff? This is my blossom panel that I'm teaching at festival. That's what that is. Let's see. So I'm going to circle back. I would definitely test out your bobbin tension on the same batting combination that you have and make any adjustments from there. Again, I look at where the circle is and I think, do I want that knot to happen higher in the quilt sandwich or lower? If you get the eyelashes, you likely basically just have the thread resting. I keep turning on and off my camera, but it's resting on top of the tension disc rather than being in the tension disc. So that happens a lot of times when people thread on a Q series, they forget to go back here and that triggers the opening of the tension disc, or they thread with their presser foot down. If you thread with your presser foot down, you're not going to truly be in the tension disc, right? The other reason that could happen is if you have a finicky thread like a monofilament that has a mind of its own. Okay, so that's general thread tension stuff. Now, say you're having a problem with thread tension. The first thing I do is slow down your bobbin winding speed. The Q series can wind so fast, there's no way that there's any thread on the planet that should be wound as fast as this machine can go at its highest setting, which is why the default for the winding speed is lower. And the Q series, when I start threading a bobbin, the speed at which I'm threading, that speed slider comes up on the screen. Whereas on a domestic machine, the speed slider is that physical slider, right? Okay. When you're winding a bobbin, the distance from the bobbin to the tensioner, the little knob that you wrap the thread around before it goes around the bobbin, that the distance changes on that, because when it's winding onto the near side of the bobbin, the side that's closest to the tensioner, that's a shorter distance than when it's winding on the far side of the bobbin. So what happens with particularly man-made threads, like 100% polyester threads or a nylon thread, or a thread like Glide? I don't love Glide, but there's lots of people who do. It is notoriously stretchy. So when you guys think of quilting cotton, it doesn't stretch. That's why we like it for piecing. It doesn't like stretch, but our clothes stretch. When we put man-made fibers in our clothes, that's plastic and it has a stretch. That's why polyester is so strong. It stretches, right? Well, the perfect quilting thread that I did with OESD, which, let's see if you can see this. It's up here. It comes in cones and spoons and spools, not spoons. Spools. My son just got a Dremel and he told me he was going to make a spoon this morning as a joke. But these are spools. Anyway, perfect quilting thread's a cotton wrapped poly. And so the cotton is stabilizing the poly and preventing it from constantly stretching. On a thread like Glide, there's going to be a lot of stretch. So you guys who wind bobbins, slow down your bobbin winding when you have a man-made thread. If you are having problems, slow it down, because it's going to minimize that stretching as it goes around onto the bobbin, okay? Slow it down. There's no reason you should be winding super fast. Personally, I buy my thread in cones. The colors I use a lot, I buy them in pairs, and then I wind a bobbin whenever I need it. So I always have two bobbins going. One is in the machine, then when I run out, I take the one off of the bobbin winder here, and I put it in, and I start winding again, because on a Q series, you can wind while you sew. And because I have two cones, I don't have to clip, my threads to do it. But a lot of times, Thread tension problems have to do with the bobbin winding and winding too fast. Another thing, if you're on a domestic machine, particularly the smaller ones, is you can use a thread stand. There's a reason the Q series has this big length up here for the thread to relax. It's to give that thread a chance, right, to relax. So that's another option. As I say, I love the Perfect Quilting thread because it's strong with the polyester core, but it doesn't have the stretch. I do get a lot of questions. Does it have lint? Yes, it has lint because there's cotton on the outside. Anytime you have a natural fiber, it has lint. I feel there's less lint than a regular cotton, but I'm not going to lie to you guys. Any natural fiber has lint, but of course it doesn't have stretch, so it's more tolerant of of faster winding speeds in that way. Okay. Jen says she never noticed it actually changes the picture. It does on the Q series. I think it does on the 990s, but the smaller domestics, there's some domestics where it doesn't. So I was just showing you because I think it's a cool feature on the 990. So if yours doesn't, like the picture doesn't change, that model just doesn't change. What happens is Bernita invents like something for a specific machine and then it filters down into all the other machines over time. So you see features like numeric thread tension that have come to the Q series from the domestics, and then you see features like 4-point placement that come from, I guess, domestics to Q series would be numeric thread tension. But then you would see something like 4-point placement, that goes Q series to domestics. So I'm not saying it will never do it, but it's not, because I was on one the other day and I noticed the picture didn't change. I don't remember what I was on. Okay, so that was my thing with Glide. You should slow down your bobbin winding. Perhaps consider using a thread stand if you're on a smaller domestic. I hope that makes sense to you guys. Now, as I said, I'm working on getting all these patterns out there back from the printer. There's a lot of interest in the Edelweiss pattern in particular and these bag patterns as well as Blueberry Hill. Edelweiss, which is this big applique quilt I'll show you on Thursday. Edelweiss, I still have to export all the files for other brands of machines. I haven't done that, which is what the holdup is. But first I have to argue with Facebook about music. I have to beg Bernina to send me another part because my part got stolen off the front porch because FedEx doesn't feel like knocking. And there's something else I had to address. I told you, I have to do something about these stupid Amazon reviews. Jeff Bezos. So anyway, I hope this helped you with your thread tension. Next time I'll be back to quilting or showing patterns or whatever. As far as the schedule, we're going to do a live this Thursday. And then I am gone for 2 weeks at Mel's and Festival and Market. Unless I figure out, I'm traveling that day. I was going to say maybe we could do some Thursday, but I'm actually flying from Anaheim to Houston, so I can't do one that day. I'll probably end up not doing a Thankful Thursday the first 2 weeks of October and then doing it the 3rd and 4th week of October to make up for it. That'll probably be what my plan is, but I will let you guys know. Okay, let me see if there's any so much. Do I use a different bobbin thread weight if you are using King Tut like thread? Okay, Mary, I don't use King Tut like thread that much. But if I did, you have 2 options. So Mary's asking if you have like a thicker weight cotton on top. You have 2 options. So if you had a thicker weight cotton on top, you either put that same thread in the bobbin, especially with the Q series where you can adjust the bobbin, right? On a 7 or 9 where you don't want to adjust the bobbin, you probably would want to buy extra bobbin for that purpose because you're basically doing bobbin work if you're putting that thicker thread in the bobbin. So you could balance it. That is probably what I do the most. I put it in both sides because I'm lazy, but I have a Q series so I can adjust that screw, so no big deal. Or you put a thinner thread in the bobbin. So let's pretend like I have a 12 weight cotton. Just say I have a 12 weight cotton in the top. That thread, if I wanted to quilt with a 50 weight cotton down below, the 12 weight will be stronger. Okay? So if you do not make any thread tension setting adjustments, what will happen is that 12 that is so much stronger than the 50 will pull up the bobbin thread. Okay? And what did I say happens if the knot is happening too far up? You need to bring down the thread tension to the center of the quilt sandwich, right? If you have a really strong thread up top and a light thread on the bobbin, that bobbin thread will come up and you need to bring down where those two threads pass through each other, okay? So your choices are either adjust your bobbin so you can take a thicker thread on the bobbin and it should be kind of even, or stick with the thinner thread on the bobbin, but then lower that tension because the top thread has so much more strength, okay? I don't really believe there's a wrong or right here. Well, there is a wrong or right. Wrong is using whatever threads you want and not checking your thread tension. But there's various ways you could make this work. You either use the same thread top and bobbin, or you use a thicker thread on top, but you bring down that bobbin tension to give to balance the fact that the top thread's stronger. Diane, you're saying you're building your ruler collection. Would you get the every circle collection or the every semicircle one to begin with? It really depends. If you had another brand other than Bernina, I'd say get the semicircle, because if you have a long arm that's not a Bernina long arm, your foot doesn't lift, so you can't get in the middle of my circles. It's hard because the circle set is just one set and it goes up to 7 inches. The semicircle is 3 sets and it goes all the way up to 17 inches, but that's 3 sets to buy. Ultimately, as far as sets go, I think it's important to have the every angle or every angle plus and the circles, and I would add in the semicircles too. They're the ones you use all the time, so I think eventually you want all of them, because their circles are like so crazy versatile, right? So ultimately I'd want all. The every circle set has holes in the center, so you can whip around and do like pebbles in a row really fast, but the every semicircle has more options in terms of curves, way more options, but it's 3 sets, so you got to think about that. I don't know if there's one or the other. You have a 990, so you want to buy long arm 30 rulers. If you just want to start with one set, start with the circles, I guess. But ultimately, you're going to want circles and semicircles. The semicircles have way more curves than the circles, but again, it's 3 sets to buy. So, I know. Anyway, say don't stress. I will not stress once I get all this done. I will try not to stress, but I know you guys appreciate it, the education. So I appreciate you guys, and thank you for helping me fix my Amazon review problem because someone left me a 2-star. Oh, really? Okay. Let's see. I think that's all. I'll be with you later in the week. Hopefully by later in the week, I will have all the stuff up on the website, the patterns to buy, etc. If you have to have the patterns sooner rather than later, just you'll want to order when I see you at the end of this week, because I am gone from the Sunday all the way through October 14th because I have Quilt Market and Festival. I forgot one thing. You guys, I'm getting to monitor for Bernina. Normally, I'm down in the booth when I'm not teaching, and I will be down in the booth on Sunday when I'm not teaching. But my friend and Bernina educator, Lane Hunter, has a class, and it's after one of my classes, and he's always my monitor. So I'm getting to be his monitor. So if you want to see me monitor, sign up for Lane's class. And I think he's teaching a free motion class, and his name is Lane Hunter. Again, I have one spot in my Trip Hunter class, and if you didn't get in one of my classes, you can still get on the wait list, but I know this one has one spot. Okay, you guys, I will see you Thursday, if not before, but keep an eye on my Facebook page because when those patterns get up there, I will post. Have a good day.